Today, I'm going to share some decision-making pitfalls. And I'm going to be open and honest with you all, be very vulnerable. Decision-making as leaders is one of the most important things that when you come to the realization. Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I am your host, John Espinosa. It really means a lot to me that you would take time out of your day to listen to the podcast. This session, you are not going to want to miss. If you do enjoy what you have been hearing, please click on that subscribe button. It makes sure that you do not miss any of the episodes, and it gets this word out to as many people as we possibly can. And ultimately, it meets our mission of getting others to where they're going. Today, I'm going to share some decision-making pitfalls. And I'm going to be open and honest with you all, be very vulnerable. Decision-making as leaders is one of the most important things that when you come to the realization as a leader, ultimately you need to make the decision. We talked a little bit about consequences for not making a decision or prolonging a decision and how that impacts your team. So I want to share a personal story with you around decision making and one of the pitfalls that I fell into when it came to not making a decision because it was a difficult decision that ultimately cost me some time and effort. And that was around making the leap into leadership. For the longest time, didn't really see myself getting into the frontline manager ranks. I had worked a lot with senior leadership in many organizations. That was my wheelhouse. That was where I felt comfortable with. And people would ask me, why haven't you become a frontline leader? And a lot of that was around, well, I enjoy what I'm doing. I really like leading at the senior level. And throughout probably a 4 to maybe 5 year, 4.5 year span, that was what I was comfortable with. And the fact of the matter was, I wasn't making the decision to get into frontline leadership because I was afraid. I was afraid that all of the training, all of the strategy that I had set forth for the organization that I was with at that time, as soon as I jumped into the frontline leadership ranks, all of that would fall down or I would make mistakes. I didn't see myself worthy as a frontline leader, and I didn't make the decision to jump into frontline leadership. And I cost myself probably a good 2 years of being a frontline leader, being in the trenches, learning, going through the struggles and the challenges and the rewards of frontline leadership. So here are some pitfalls. I'm going to share 3 of them with you that I've seen myself fall into, and I've seen others or coached or mentors others whenever they talk about the difficulty of making decisions. So the first one is confirmation bias is something that whenever you are looking to make a decision. In my example, I was, looking to make a decision, possibly getting into the frontline leadership ranks. You begin to look for information. You almost seek out information that confirms the decision that you've already made. So pre-decisional, you've already told yourself, I'm not good enough to be a frontline leader. That was my case. So I looked for any bit of information to validate that, to confirm that was true. Think about it this way. You're going on a vacation and you're on social media and you're scrolling and you're looking to go to a tropical destination. And you start looking, you maybe just click on a like for a tropical destination. What happens? What do you begin to see? You begin to see a lot of tropical destinations just happening to pop up. You may even get an email about going to a tropical destination. Guess what? You're also going to start getting those sponsored ads because of the algorithms that work. So what is that? That's a confirmation bias. It's almost feeding into your pre-decision. It's confirming your want to go on a tropical vacation. So those are the things as we begin to get into the decision-making process. We have to check our confirmation bias. Have we already made the decision prior to asking questions, looking at the information? Bringing the experts in the room. Because if we have to realize that is going on and we have to check that. Again, it's not a negative thing. We all have it. It's one of those things in our experience. Maybe we've been in this situation before and we know that that's not going to work. Have you ever told yourself that? Oh, that's not going to work. You don't say that out loud. You don't say that to your team because you want to be collaborative and you want to be that leader that sits back and listen. But in the back of your mind, and you all have been there, promise you, you have that little voice that's saying, John, this isn't going to work. We've done it before. And then you begin to tell yourself reasons, that confirmation bias on when it's not going to work. So check your confirmation bias. Pitfall number 1. Pitfall number 2, the information that you are getting as a leader to make a decision, where is it coming from? There's a ton of information. Business analytics. I mean, companies have gotten just crazy with dashboards. We got a dashboard for everything. And that information on there, I can filter and query that dashboard, pretty much make it look like anything I want, any decision, whether I want to say yes or whether I want to say no. I can filter that information in a way to support either one. So pay attention to where the source of that information is coming from. And I can go further than that. The people that are at the source of the information, those are going to be your allies. Those are going to be the ones that I want around the table when I make decisions. And there have been times before when that wasn't the case. I may have surrounded myself with yes people, or I may have been at maybe a middle manager or a senior leader in the room. They weren't in the trenches. They weren't close to the information. They may have got the information from the people at the source, but then again, what? They've added their biases to how they're presenting that information. So you need to pay very particular attention to where the source of that information is coming from and how close the people are to that source that's providing you that information. So that's pitfall number 2. And last but not least, pitfall number 3. Make sure that you cultivate your experience. Recognize those trends. Don't bury your head in the sand. There are decisions that you are going to make that you just feel that's coming from your gut. And I've talked about that before. There's a scientific reason. There's experience there. I hear people all the time, well, this just doesn't feel right. And I always dig deeper. Why doesn't it feel right? Again, going back to cultivating that experience and making sure you can walk into an organization and I can quickly tell the culture of that organization. Why? Because I've worked with a lot of organizations that have good cultures and I've worked with a lot of organizations that have bad cultures. So based on my experience and me recognizing the trends of how people ask questions, how meetings are run, just walking in the halls and seeing people greet you tells me a lot about the culture. Complete strangers. And a lot of times you have badges on, visitor badges, right? I can tell a lot because I've been there and I've done that. Bury your head in the sand and ignore your experience and the trends that you recognize. Trust your gut. I hope this helps you all be better decision makers. Stay out of those pitfalls of the confirmation bias. Make sure that the information is coming from the people at the source and recognize those trends. And I promise you, you're going to be better decision makers. Go be great. We'll talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us get others to where they're going.